The forest was quiet, too quiet. Every snap of a twig echoed through the young hunter's chest. And then he saw them, a bear and her cub just meters away. His finger tightened on the trigger, but something inside him stopped. What would he do next? The early morning mist clung to the dense forest like a fragile veil, softening the rough outlines of towering pines and gnarled oaks. Jason, a young hunter in his early 20s, adjusted the strap of his worn rifle across his shoulder and stepped lightly over fallen branches. His boots left shallow impressions in the damp earth, almost as if he were trying to move silently through the world, careful not to disturb it. This was his first solo hunt of the season, and though he had walked these woods many times before, today there was a tension he couldn't shake, a subtle shift in the usual morning rhythm of birdsong and wind through the needles. He paused beside a small clearing where sunlight barely touched the ground, filtered through the mist in golden shafts. And that's when he saw movement. A large brown bear, powerful yet cautious, leading a cub no more than a year old. The cub's fur was a messy tangle of brown and lighter streaks, its small claws digging nervously into the soil. They weren't running, weren't aggressive, they were simply moving, foraging, the cub's curious eyes glancing around at every sound. Jason's breath hitched. His finger instinctively hovered near the trigger of his rifle. His mind raced through every lesson he had ever learned about bear encounters. Keep calm. Don't make sudden movements. Assess the threat. But all of that advice collided with an instinctive awe. He was not looking at a monster or a threat. He was looking at life, fragile and wild, standing just meters from him. The bear noticed him, a deep rumble vibrating through its chest. It paused, ears tilted back, eyes fixed. The cub froze too, a tiny shadow pressed against its mother's larger form. Jason could feel his pulse hammering, the forest suddenly full of tension, the mist thickening like a curtain hiding the next heartbeat. He had never been this close to a wild mother and her cub before. The rifle felt impossibly heavy in his hands. And then, in a blink, something shifted inside him. He saw the way the cub looked up at its mother, the way she nuzzled it reassuringly, the unspoken trust and bond between them. Jason's training, his instinct to hunt, clashed with an undeniable moral truth. This was a living creature with its own story, its own right to exist just as he did. He lowered the rifle, slightly, uncertain but compelled. The cub took a tentative step forward, sniffing the air, eyes curious, unafraid. A single thought struck Jason. The split second that defines humanity isn't in the aim of the rifle, but in the choice not to pull the trigger. The bear watched him, perhaps aware of the hesitation, perhaps simply assessing whether he was a threat. For Jason the seconds stretched like hours. He could retreat, he could fire, but the decision had weight far beyond the moment. It felt like a moral crossroad, invisible yet undeniable. Then, without warning, a distant crack of a branch underfoot. Someone else in the forest? Another hunter? A hiker? Shattered the fragile silence. The bear stiffened, growling low, protective. The cub squeaked and scampered a few steps closer to its mother. Jason's heart raced faster. He had to act now one way or another. Would he stay and try to calm the situation? Or would the intrusion force him into action he might regret? What would you do if you were Jason in this moment? Stay calm and wait or retreat to safety? Could you make the moral choice under pressure? Jason's hands trembled slightly, though the rifle remained lowered. He didn't know if the bear perceived his hesitation as weakness or mercy, but the tension in the clearing was palpable. Every instinct screamed that he should act, move, retreat, or aim. Yet something deeper, almost primal, held him in place. The bond between mother and cub was tangible. He could feel it vibrating through the forest air, an unspoken language of trust, protection, and cautious curiosity. The cub shuffled closer to Jason, ears perked, sniffing at the moist earth. Its tiny claws left faint marks in the soft dirt, like whispers of innocence. Jason's heart ached. The childlike trust in its eyes struck him harder than any rifle ever could. He lowered himself to a crouch, careful not to make sudden movements. "I'm not a threat," he murmured almost instinctively. The words felt foolish aloud, yet somehow necessary. From the misty tree-line, a rustling sound announced another presence. Jason froze, his gaze snapping toward the noise. A hiker, maybe, or another hunter. Whoever it was, the bear stiffened, standing taller, muscles coiled like springs. The cub squeaked softly, pressing closer to its mother. Jason's pulse raced. He had chosen not to shoot, but he now faced another unknown variable: human interference. The stranger emerged slowly from the fog, a man carrying nothing more than a backpack. He paused at the edge of the clearing, eyes widening at the sight of Jason and the bears. His presence only heightened the fragile tension, and for a moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The mother bear let out a low, rumbling growl, the sound resonating in Jason's chest. Not aggression, it was warning, caution, an invisible line drawn in the soil. Jason realized something crucial. His choice not to fire had set the tone. The bears had not reacted violently. The cub, curious yet timid, mirrored the mother's stance. But now the moral test expanded. Could he ensure this new human would respect the same invisible boundary? He stepped forward slowly, raising one hand as a gesture of peace. "It's okay," he called softly. The stranger froze, eyes darting between Jason and the bear. The mother bear's gaze flicked between the two humans, assessing, calculating. Then, unexpectedly, she sat down, lowering herself slightly, almost as if granting permission, an invitation for cautious observation rather than confrontation. Jason exhaled a shaky breath, feeling a sliver of relief. Yet the forest didn't release its grip so easily. A distant branch snapped sharply, louder this time, closer. The mother bear's head shot toward the sound. The cub yelped, bounding behind its mother, and Jason's heart slammed against his ribs. Something, or someone, was moving through the underbrush, fast and deliberate. The hunter's moral dilemma had just expanded, protecting himself, guiding the stranger, and respecting the lives of the bears, all at once. Every second now carried weight, every movement could tip the balance. A shadow emerged through the dense mist, tall and quick. Jason barely had time to register the shape before it collided with the clearing's edge, sending leaves flying. Was it another human? A predator? Or something entirely unexpected? The shadow resolved into a figure, sprinting through the underbrush, an older man, face flushed, eyes wide with panic. He stumbled into the clearing, tripping over a root and sprawling forward. Jason instinctively stepped between him and the bear, rifle lowered but ready to react. The mother bear shifted slightly, muscles tensing, yet she did not rise. Her ears flicked toward the intruder, the cub pressed against her side, small but alert. Jason caught his breath, forcing himself to remain calm. "It's okay," he called again, louder this time, directing the words at both the stranger and the bear. The older man scrambled upright, glancing at the animals, his fear evident. I didn't mean to," he stammered, his voice trembling. Jason's mind raced. The forest had become a crucible of split-second moral decisions. He had chosen not to shoot the bear, respecting its right to exist. Now he had to guide this panicked human without provoking a reaction from the mother or cub. Every move mattered. The older man raised his hands slowly, eyes fixed on the bear. "I'm not a threat. I'm not," he faltered, words lost in the rising tension. Jason motioned for him to stay still, inching closer to the bear while keeping a careful eye on the cub. The mother bear's gaze followed every movement, assessing, weighing threat against caution. The cub peeked out from behind her, curiosity battling instinctive fear. Jason realized that this encounter wasn't just about survival, it was about teaching, by example, a moral respect for life in its rawest form. He spoke softly, instructing the older man, "Move slowly, stay calm, and don't make eye contact with the cub. Let her decide if you're safe." The man obeyed, trembling but compliant. A tense silence enveloped the clearing. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then, just as Jason thought the situation was stabilizing, the older man's boot caught a branch, snapping it sharply underfoot. The mother bear's body stiffened instantly, and the cub squeaked, taking a small, hesitant step back. Jason's heart pounded. The decision that had seemed so clear now demanded immediate action. Without thinking, Jason stepped forward, extending his free hand in a protective gesture toward the cub, speaking in a low, soothing tone. The mother bear's growl subsided slightly, a tense acknowledgement rather than aggression. The cub stopped moving, sniffing the air, and for a moment, the forest seemed suspended between trust and fear. Then came the noise, a distant bark. Dogs? The mother bear's head shot up, ears forward, and the cub squealed in alarm. Jason froze, realizing that the sound was approaching fast. Something or someone was coming through the forest at speed, breaking the fragile calm. Jason had already lowered his rifle once. Could he protect the bears and the panicked man from whatever was approaching? Or would the forest force his moral choice into a life-or-death test? If you were Jason, would you focus on protecting the animals, helping the human, or preparing for both? Could you make a moral choice under immediate danger? The distant bark grew louder, sharper, breaking through the dense mist and the quiet hum of the forest. Jason's heart pounded violently, echoing in his ears as adrenaline surged through his veins. The older man beside him froze completely, eyes wide in panic, hands raised uselessly. The mother bear's ears flattened, her muscles tensed like coiled springs, and the cub clung tightly to her side, tiny claws gripping fur as if anchoring itself to safety. The forest had shifted in an instant from quiet wonder to a tense battlefield of instincts. Jason forced himself to remain calm, breathing in measured, deliberate steps. He had made a moral choice once, lowering his rifle, but now survival demanded that he balance courage with wisdom. The bark sounded again, closer this time, accompanied by heavy rustling and the unmistakable crunch of boots or paws on fallen leaves. Jason couldn't tell whether the sound belonged to another human intruding into the forest, a pack of stray dogs, or even an unexpected predator drawn by the scent of disturbance. He glanced quickly at the cub. Its eyes were wide, shimmering with curiosity and fear, and its small body trembled against the mother's side. The mother bear's eyes never left the approaching sound. She growled low and warningly, vibrating in the air like a drumbeat of power and authority. Jason realized that whatever was coming, he needed to act, and fast, without provoking panic in the animals or the older man. The older man's voice trembled. Is it dangerous?" he whispered, barely audible. Jason shook his head slightly, signaling for silence. Any sudden movement could trigger the mother bear's defensive instincts, potentially turning a peaceful encounter into tragedy. He stepped subtly, positioning himself between the bear and the approaching threat while keeping the older man slightly behind him. The source of the sound finally emerged from the mist. 2 dogs, large and barking aggressively, chasing a third figure, a teenage boy panting and stumbling through the underbrush. The boy clutched a backpack tightly, clearly frightened, and unaware of the delicate standoff taking place in the clearing. Jason's mind raced. The dogs could provoke the mother bear, putting the cub in immediate danger, while the boy's uncoordinated movements risked startling both humans and animals alike. He had no time for hesitation. Every decision now carried immediate consequences. Jason crouched slightly, his free hand extended toward the cub, signaling calm, while he carefully instructed the older man. "Stay still, don't shout. Let them pass. Do not look directly at the bears." The older man nodded frantically, teeth clenched. The mother bear growled again, a deep, resonant sound, and for a moment, Jason feared she might lunge. But instead, she shifted slightly, positioning herself protectively in front of the cub. Her eyes never left the approaching chaos, her posture both a shield and a warning. The cub pressed close, squeaking softly as if asking Jason to guarantee their safety. Jason's mind worked in a blur. He needed to create a barrier of calm between the bears and the chaos of human panic. He slowly stepped sideways, subtly placing himself in the line of sight of the approaching dogs, using his presence to divert attention. "Stay calm," he muttered under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. The forest seemed to contract around him, every tree a silent witness to the unfolding drama. As the dogs charged into the clearing, barking furiously, the teenage boy tripped again, sprawling onto the soft, moss-covered ground. One of the dogs skidded dangerously close to the cub, and Jason acted on instinct, raising a hand and calling out a firm, commanding shout. "Stop!" The sound rang sharply through the clearing, cutting through the barking and rustling. The dogs hesitated, confused by the human authority in front of them. The boy scrambled to his feet, eyes wide with terror, unsure whether to flee or stay. The mother bear's growl softened, a subtle acknowledgement that Jason's intervention had changed the dynamic. She inched slightly forward, not threatening but asserting dominance over her space. The cub followed, shuffling closer, trusting the protective presence of both mother and human. Jason's pulse was still racing, but a small surge of hope emerged. His moral choice to respect life, to avoid killing, was now actively preserving it. Yet the danger was not over. The older man, trembling, whispered, They're not stopping." Jason turned, realizing that the dogs and boy were now forming a cluster of chaos at the far edge of the clearing. The mother bear tensed again, signaling her readiness to defend. The cub squeaked, tiny and vulnerable. Jason knew he had to act decisively, but he also understood that any aggressive move could provoke disaster. Jason scanned the clearing, searching for an escape route or a way to divert the approaching threat. He noticed a narrow trail winding behind the clearing, partially obscured by underbrush. If he could guide the humans along that path without alarming the bear, he could prevent escalation. Slowly, he gestured with his free hand toward the trail, signaling them to move carefully, one at a time. The older man nodded, comprehension flickering in his eyes. The teenage boy, however, panicked at the sight of the bear's gaze. He froze, backpack slipping from his grasp. Jason's heart sank. The mother bear's growl deepened, protective and warning. The cub pressed tightly against her, squeaking again. Jason's instincts screamed at him to intervene physically, to place himself between the cub and potential danger. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, feeling the weight of moral responsibility press down. Every life in this clearing depended on his next actions, human and animal alike. Slowly, deliberately he moved forward, keeping his hands visible, his movements calm but authoritative. He positioned himself between the cub and the boy, speaking in a low, steady voice. "It's okay. Move slowly toward the trail. You're safe if you follow my lead." The mother bear's eyes flicked between Jason and the boy. A tense silence fell, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the soft, uncertain squeaks of the cub. The dogs, still confused by Jason's presence, hesitated on the edge of the clearing. The older man and the boy began to shuffle toward the trail, eyes never leaving the bears. Jason felt a small measure of relief. His moral choice, to lower the rifle, to respect life rather than asserting dominance, was now actively preserving life. He had not only protected the cub and mother but also guided two panicked humans through a dangerous encounter. Yet he knew the forest held more unpredictability than he could anticipate. The bark of the dogs, the panicked movements, the mist, it all could change in an instant. And then, just as the last human foot left the immediate clearing, a snapping branch rang out sharply from the opposite edge of the forest. Jason froze. The mother bear's head snapped toward the sound, muscles coiled. The cub squeaked, bounding behind her. Something was approaching, fast and deliberate, and it was closer than before. Jason had saved the cub and guided the humans safely, for now. But the forest had another test waiting. Something larger, more immediate and entirely unpredictable was moving toward the clearing. Would his moral courage and calm presence be enough to protect all life here? The snapping of the branch echoed through the clearing, more pronounced than ever, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. Jason's heart pounded in rhythm with the sudden rustle of leaves and the distant, deliberate footsteps approaching the clearing. He instinctively lowered his body slightly, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. The mother bear stiffened, her massive frame coiling with silent power, ears alert, eyes locked on the approaching disturbance. The cub pressed closer to her, squeaking softly, trusting the instinctual guidance of its mother. Jason's mind raced. He had successfully guided the two humans out of immediate danger, but this new presence was unknown. Whatever, or whoever, it carried the potential to undo the delicate balance of calm he had painstakingly maintained. He could feel the weight of moral responsibility pressing down. Protect the bear, protect the cub, ensure no humans were harmed, and remain a witness to the forest's raw morality. The approaching figure emerged from the dense mist, a man in dark clothing carrying a large, unfamiliar bundle slung over his shoulder. He moved quickly, with purpose, unaware of the mother bear and cub in the clearing. Jason's instincts screamed at him to act. The man's stride was confident, yet oblivious to the tension he was entering. Any sudden movement could provoke the bear, especially the protective mother who had already demonstrated the sharpness of her instincts. Jason exhaled slowly, assessing the scene. He needed a strategy that would ensure no one, human or animal, was harmed. Raising one hand slightly, he signaled calm, speaking in low tones to both the approaching figure and the mother bear. "Stay still. It's okay. Don't move fast." His voice was steady, carrying authority without aggression. The mother bear's growl softened, a warning still present, but moderated by Jason's controlled presence. The man paused, finally noticing the bear and her cub. His eyes widened and the bundle slipped slightly in his grasp. Jason could see the instinctual fear ripple across him. Yet, despite the obvious danger, the man froze in place, recognizing the unspoken boundary that had been established. Jason realized that his moral choice, to respect life, to intervene with calm authority, was now cascading outward, influencing the actions of others in the clearing. The cub, curious yet cautious, peeked out from behind its mother, its small eyes scanning the intruder. Jason shifted slightly to keep the cub protected, his free hand extending in a protective, almost instinctual gesture. The mother bear mirrored his stance, neither advancing nor retreating, a living embodiment of balance between caution and restraint. Jason's pulse raced as he considered his options. He could attempt to divert the man along the same trail used by the previous humans, but the terrain was uneven, with thick underbrush and hidden roots that could trigger panic in both the man and the animals. He needed precision and timing, relying on every lesson learned from his time in the forest. Slowly, deliberately, he began issuing calm, low instructions, Move slowly to the left, follow the natural path along the creek. Keep your movements measured, don't make eye contact with the cub. The man hesitated, glancing between Jason and the bear. His fear was palpable, but he obeyed, stepping carefully into the underbrush. The mother bear's gaze tracked each movement, muscles coiled, ready to act if needed. The cub squeaked softly, pressing closer against her, small claws digging into her fur. The balance of life in the clearing was fragile, suspended between instinct and conscious choice. Suddenly, a rustling sound erupted from the far side of the clearing. Jason froze. Two more figures emerged, another hiker and a dog, large and barking aggressively. The bear's growl deepened, resonating through the misty forest, while the cub yelped, scrambling slightly behind her protective frame. Jason realized that the forest had thrown yet another moral challenge at him. Protect life while preventing escalation, with multiple variables now in motion. He acted swiftly, raising his voice firmly but controlled. Stop. Everyone stay where you are. Move slowly to the creek path, no sudden movements. The figures hesitated, uncertainty and fear written across their faces. Jason took a small, deliberate step forward, positioning himself as a shield between the bear family and the approaching humans. The mother bear's body remained tense, but she did not advance. Trust had been established, fragile as it was. The cub, sensing the temporary calm, peeked out, its small nose twitching in curiosity. Jason exhaled slowly, realizing that the moment required more than instinct. It required conscious moral courage. His choice to intervene without violence was now actively preserving life, guiding humans and animals through a potentially deadly encounter without harm. Yet he could feel the forest's unpredictability pressing in. One misstep, one panicked movement could unravel everything. Then, without warning, a loud snap echoed closer, unmistakable and deliberate. Jason's eyes widened as he realized what it was. A fallen tree branch, dislodged by the shifting weight of one of the approaching humans. The mother bear tensed immediately, ears flattening, eyes narrowing. The cub squeaked, pressed tightly against her side. Jason's hands moved in a slow, calming motion, signaling the bear to stay. The approaching humans froze, uncertainty rippling through their bodies. Jason's mind worked rapidly. He needed to guide the humans along the safe path, prevent panic in the bear family, and maintain a protective stance over the cub. Every choice carried weight, every action a moral decision with immediate consequences. Slowly, he gestured toward the creek path again, using deliberate, authoritative movements. Follow me slowly. One at a time. Don't rush. The humans complied, shuffling cautiously along the trail. The mother bear watched them, muscles coiled, but did not advance. The cub pressed closely to her, squeaking softly, trusting the combined presence of Jason and the mother. For a brief moment, the forest seemed suspended, a delicate balance of life maintained through moral courage and conscious intervention. And then, from deeper within the mist, a shadow emerged. Larger than any human, moving with deliberate force. Jason froze, pulse hammering. The mother bear stiffened, growl vibrating in her chest. The cub squeaked, small body pressed tightly against her. Jason realized that the forest had yet another test in store, one that would push moral courage, instinct, and empathy to their limits. Jason had successfully guided the humans and protected the cub, for now. But the approaching shadow threatened to destabilize everything. Would his choices hold, or would the forest demand a moral sacrifice? If you were Jason, how far would you go to protect life in this moment? Could you maintain calm and moral clarity as danger approached? The mist swirled around the clearing, thickening in the early morning light as the shadow moved closer. Jason's pulse raced, every muscle coiled with tension. He could feel the mother bear's gaze locked onto the approaching figure, her growl low and resonant, vibrating through the forest floor. The cub whimpered softly, pressing itself closer to her side. Jason's hands remained steady, but his mind raced. He had guided humans and protected animals, yet now he faced an unknown variable whose arrival could overturn everything. As the figure emerged from the mist, the identity became clear. It wasn't another human hiker or stray dog. It was a large, black wolf, eyes glinting with instinctual curiosity and hunger. Its movements were deliberate, silent but threatening, muscles rippling under thick fur as it paused at the edge of the clearing, sniffing the air. Jason's heart sank. The mother bear's growl deepened, a warning echoing across the misty trees, and the cub squeaked in alarm. Jason quickly assessed the situation. The wolf's presence introduced a dangerous dynamic. It could provoke the mother, putting the cub at risk, or it could attack the humans if startled. The balance he had worked so hard to maintain was now fragile, threatening to collapse in an instant. He had to act and fast. He crouched slightly, raising one hand slowly in a calming gesture toward the mother bear and cub. His voice was soft but firm. Stay calm. Don't engage unless necessary. The mother bear's ears flicked toward him, muscles tensing but no forward movement. The cub remained pressed against her, eyes wide, trusting Jason's guidance. The wolf advanced another few steps, sniffing the air, clearly assessing the humans and bears alike. Jason took a deep breath, calculating his next move. He knew that sudden movement could provoke the wolf into attacking, while inaction could trigger defensive behavior from the mother bear. The forest had become a crucible of moral and instinctual choices, each decision carrying immediate consequences for life. Jason's gaze flicked toward the humans, now partially on the narrow creek trail, observing in frozen fear. He needed them to remain calm or the delicate balance would be lost. He raised his voice slightly, projecting authority without aggression. Move slowly along the trail. No sudden movements. Keep calm. The humans nodded, hands raised slightly, obeying his instructions. The mother bear shifted slightly, positioning herself squarely between the wolf and her cub. Her eyes locked on the predator, every muscle taut, yet she did not charge. The cub pressed against her, squeaking in alarm but trusting her judgment. Jason realized that moral courage here wasn't about aggression. It was about restraint, about guiding all life in the clearing to safety without unnecessary harm. The wolf let out a low growl, a deep, guttural sound that reverberated through the misty clearing. Jason felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew the wolf would test boundaries, looking for weakness, testing reactions. One wrong movement could provoke a deadly confrontation. He took a careful step forward, positioning himself slightly between the wolf and the mother bear, hands open, signaling non-threat. The wolf paused, sniffing the air, assessing the humans and the bear. It let out a short bark-like growl, circling slightly, then stopped. Jason exhaled slowly, realizing that the tension could tip either way at any moment. His moral choice, to respect life, avoid unnecessary violence and protect both humans and animals, was being tested under extreme pressure. Suddenly, the wolf darted toward the humans, not with immediate aggression, but with curiosity and hunger. The older man froze, stumbling backward, tripping over a root and letting out a panicked yell. Jason acted instinctively, stepping forward, voice commanding, "No. Stay calm. Move slowly toward me." His presence and calm authority created a barrier of safety between the wolf and the humans, allowing them to regain balance. The mother bear growled again, a deep, resonant warning that echoed across the clearing. The wolf stopped mid-step, assessing her position. The cub squeaked softly, pressed tightly against the mother, eyes flicking toward Jason as if seeking reassurance. Jason knew he had to maintain both his physical and moral stance, guiding life without resorting to violence, protecting both the bear family and humans. Slowly, deliberately, he backed toward the edge of the clearing, keeping his body between the wolf and the bear cub. The humans followed cautiously behind him, moving as instructed. The wolf circled once more, ears flattened, muscles tense, before retreating slightly into the mist, testing boundaries but respecting the authority and calm Jason projected. Jason's hands trembled slightly but he remained composed. The mother bear shifted, lowering herself and easing tension though still watchful. The cub nestled closer, squeaking softly, sensing that danger had not fully passed but that protection was present. Jason realized that the forest test wasn't just survival, it was about moral courage, empathy, and calm action under extreme pressure. He scanned the clearing once more. The wolf had stopped, pawing the misty ground, eyes flicking between the humans and the bears. The older man exhaled shakily, relief flooding his features. The teenage boy looked at Jason, wide-eyed, a mixture of awe and fear reflecting in his expression. Jason felt a small surge of hope. His choice to lower the rifle and respect life was cascading outward, influencing the actions and reactions of everyone present. But then, a louder snap, closer than before, echoed through the mist. Jason froze. The wolf's ears pricked, head snapping toward the sound. The mother bear stiffened again, cub squeaking in alarm. The humans tensed, uncertainty rippling through their bodies. Whatever had caused the snap was coming fast, deliberate, and closer than any of them had anticipated. Jason realized the forest had yet another challenge in store. The moral courage he had exercised thus far, guiding life without harm, maintaining calm under extreme tension, was about to be tested again. One misstep could undo everything. The balance between instinct and conscious choice, between fear and empathy, was about to reach its breaking point. The snapping grew louder, closer, and now Jason could make out movement in the mist. Another predator? Another human? Or something entirely unexpected? The forest's moral crucible was far from over, and Jason's choices in the next seconds would define the fate of every life in the clearing. The snapping grew louder, the forest seemingly vibrating with tension. Jason's muscles coiled, mind racing, heart hammering in perfect sync with the distant rustle of leaves. He could see the mother bear stiffen, a deep growl reverberating through the clearing, while the cub pressed against her with trembling paws. Every instinct in him screamed for immediate action, yet his moral compass demanded restraint. This was not a moment for reflex, it was a moment for courage, empathy, and clear thinking. Through the thickening mist, the figure emerged fully, a second wolf, larger than the first, its fur glistening with dew, eyes sharp and calculating. The two wolves circled at the edge of the clearing, sniffing the air, bodies tense like drawn bows. Jason's pulse quickened. The humans, now clustered behind him along the creek trail, froze in collective terror. The mother bear's growl deepened, a warning resonating through every tree, every leaf, as if the forest itself acknowledged the rising stakes. Jason knew that any sudden movement could ignite chaos. The cub whimpered, small and vulnerable, and he instinctively crouched, extending one hand slightly toward the young bear in a gesture of reassurance. "Stay calm," he murmured softly, directing both humans and animals. The mother bear seemed to understand, maintaining a protective, defensive posture rather than attacking. The wolves tested boundaries, approaching a few paces closer, yet their movements were measured, exploratory rather than outright aggression. Jason's mind raced, how to maintain safety for all without provoking violence, without sacrificing moral clarity. One wrong move could cost lives. He glanced at the older man and the teenage boy, both pale, hands trembling. "Move slowly along the path," Jason instructed, projecting calm authority. "Do not rush. Keep eyes low. Let them pass safely." The humans nodded, steps cautious and deliberate, every movement designed to avoid triggering the wolves or the mother bear. The cub, sensing a momentary pause and danger, peered out from behind the mother, eyes flicking toward Jason. He realized that the balance of the clearing depended not only on instinct but on conscious moral action. Protecting life, guiding humans, and respecting the forest's natural order were not separate challenges. They were a single, interconnected test of courage and empathy. The wolves moved closer, sniffing the trail, then stopped abruptly as the mother bear emitted a low, resonant growl that echoed like a warning cannon through the clearing. The cub squeaked, pressed tighter against her side, and Jason felt the fragile tension in the air. He exhaled slowly, understanding that now the responsibility of maintaining calm rested entirely on him. He stepped slightly forward, projecting authority without aggression, hand raised in a non-threatening gesture. "Stay back. Respect the space. No sudden moves," he commanded firmly, voice low and steady. The wolves paused, muscles coiled, evaluating, while the mother bear's eyes never left them. The cub whimpered softly, trust emanating toward Jason, as if acknowledging his moral stance as a shield of protection. Suddenly, a snap of a branch echoed from deeper in the forest, closer than ever. The wolves stiffened, ears pricked, muscles tensing like taut cables. The mother bear's growl escalated, a deep, primal sound warning of imminent action. The humans froze again, unsure of the proper course. Jason's mind worked in rapid calculation. He needed to control space, manage movement, and prevent escalation, all without raising a weapon. He positioned himself strategically, creating a human barrier while using his calm demeanor to influence the bear and cub. He gestured for the humans to move in a slow, deliberate curve along the creek trail, minimizing the chance of startling the wolves or the mother. Each step was a negotiation with life itself, a careful orchestration of instincts, morality, and human influence. The wolves, after circling once more, paused at the edge of the clearing. Their eyes, sharp and calculating, flicked between Jason, the humans, and the mother bear. A tense silence filled the forest, broken only by the distant drip of dew from leaves and the soft rustle of moss underfoot. Jason's chest tightened. He understood that the next few seconds could determine survival, not through force, but through the careful application of moral courage. A sudden movement from the teenage boy, a trembling step forward, unsteady, triggered an alert in both the wolves and the mother bear. The cub squeaked loudly, pressed tightly against its mother. Jason reacted instinctively, stepping forward, voice firm but calm. "Stay still. Don't move. Follow my lead." The humans obeyed, freezing in place, allowing the wolves and the mother bear to recalibrate their assessment of the situation. The mist swirled around the clearing as the tension reached its peak. Every life present, the mother bear, the cub, the wolves, the humans, was balanced on a knife edge. Jason realized the forest had become a crucible of moral and instinctual choices. He could not rely solely on instincts. He had to actively guide, protect, and influence the outcome. His moral courage was being tested, not by the absence of danger but by the presence of it. The wolves took a step back, assessing Jason's calm authority and the mother bear's protective presence. The cub squeaked softly again, small claws digging into fur as trust and instinct intertwined. The humans remained still, obedient and tense. Jason felt a momentary relief, recognizing that his choices, the decision not to harm, the calm intervention, the projection of moral courage, had created a fragile equilibrium. But the forest challenge was not yet complete. From deeper in the mist, another sound emerged, the rustling of large branches, faster and heavier than before. Jason froze. The mother bear stiffened again, growl deepening. The cub pressed closer, squeaking in alarm. The humans tensed. Whatever was approaching now threatened to destabilize the fragile balance he had maintained. Jason had guided, protected, and intervened successfully so far. Yet the forest still had one test remaining, a force unseen but imminent that could shatter the equilibrium. Would his moral courage, his calm authority, and his respect for life be enough to preserve all in the clearing? The mist thickened as the heavy rustling grew closer, each sound sharp and deliberate. Jason's chest tightened. His senses were hyper-aware, muscles coiled, mind racing. The mother bear's growl deepened, resonating through the clearing like a drumbeat of primal warning, while the cub pressed closer to her side, trembling but trusting. The humans behind Jason froze, faces pale, hands gripping branches and backpacks as they tried to make themselves small and non-threatening. From the thick mist, a large shadow emerged, an adult wolf, bigger and more imposing than either of the previous two. Its eyes glinted with a predator's curiosity, muscles rippling under its dark fur, movements deliberate and calculating. Jason instinctively stepped slightly forward, hand raised, projecting calm authority. This was no longer a simple encounter. It was a moral crucible where instinct and conscious choice collided under extreme pressure. The mother bear's posture stiffened, every muscle coiled and ready to act. The cub whimpered softly, pressing against her, eyes wide, ears flicking nervously. Jason's heart pounded. He had already guided humans, protected the cub, managed two wolves, but now the forest demanded his ultimate judgment. The equilibrium he had painstakingly created was fragile, and one wrong action could trigger catastrophe. He spoke slowly, deliberately, voice calm but firm. "Stay calm. No sudden movements. Let them pass. Trust me." The humans nodded, trembling but obedient. The cub's small squeak echoed softly against the mother's side. The wolves paused at the edge of the clearing, circling cautiously, sensing Jason's controlled presence, weighing threat against hesitation. Jason assessed the space. The creek trail behind him offered a potential escape route for humans, a buffer zone between bears and wolves. Every movement, every choice now had weight. He could act aggressively, attempting to chase the wolves away, but that would compromise the moral stance he had maintained. He could remain passive, risking an escalation, or he could rely on calm authority and positioning, guiding all life toward a safe resolution. A sudden snap, closer this time, made the wolves tense further. The mother bear growled sharply, low and rumbling, while the cub squeaked in alarm. Jason raised both hands slowly, palms open, signaling non-threat, and took a careful step forward. His voice carried through the mist. "I'm here. Calm down. No one gets hurt if you respect each other's space." The wolves hesitated. Muscles coiled, eyes scanning, weighing options. The mother bear remained stationary but assertive, a living barrier between cub and predator. The humans remained still, obedient, shadows against the misty forest floor. For a tense moment all four species, the humans, the cub, the mother and the wolves, were locked in a silent negotiation. Life itself hung in the balance, mediated by Jason's moral courage and calm presence. The adult wolf circled once, stepping closer, sniffing the air. Jason felt sweat bead on his forehead, pulse hammering. The cub squeaked again, pressing tighter against its mother. He realized that the forest demanded not reflex, but conscious action guided by empathy, respect, and moral clarity. He spoke softly, guiding the humans, "Move slowly along the creek path. One step at a time. Trust me." The humans obeyed, stepping cautiously, eyes fixed on the ground. The wolves paused, the first wolf retreating slightly, tension coiling like a spring. The mother bear's growl softened, muscles still taut but not advancing. Jason exhaled slowly, aware that his moral choice, to avoid violence, to protect life, to guide rather than dominate, was actively preserving the fragile equilibrium. Suddenly, a second snap, sharper, closer, echoed from behind a dense thicket. The adult wolf's head snapped toward the sound, and instinctively the first two wolves followed. The mother bear shifted protectively, cubs squeaking sharply. Jason's body coiled, ready to intervene physically if necessary. Yet he maintained calm, projecting authority without aggression. He gestured subtly toward the creek trail, guiding humans past the immediate danger. "Keep moving. Slow. Trust the path. Trust me." The humans shuffled along, tension in every step, aware of the delicate dance taking place in the clearing. The cubs squeaked again, small body pressing against the mother, as if sensing the forest test was nearly complete. The adult wolf took a tentative step back, assessing Jason's controlled presence. The mother bear growled softly, a warning but no aggression. The mist shifted, sunlight glimmering on leaves, painting the forest in muted golds and greens. Time seemed suspended, each heartbeat stretched by tension and anticipation. Jason realized that moral courage was not a single act but a continuous, deliberate application of restraint, empathy, and awareness. Finally, the adult wolf hesitated, then circled back toward the underbrush, followed cautiously by the two younger wolves. The mother bear's growl subsided, though muscles remained coiled. The cubs squeaked softly, then relaxed slightly, sensing the immediate danger had passed. Jason exhaled deeply, chest heaving, eyes scanning to ensure the humans remained safe along the creek trail. The clearing exhaled with him, tension slowly dissipating as the forest returned to a tentative calm. Sunlight filtered through the mist, glinting on dew-covered leaves. The mother bear shifted, nudging the cub gently, a silent affirmation of safety. The humans reached the edge of the creek trail, trembling but unharmed. Jason's moral choice, to protect, guide, and respect life, had succeeded, preserving all life in the clearing without violence. Yet even as relief washed over him, Jason knew the forest's lesson was not over. Each encounter, each decision, was a test of moral courage, empathy, and awareness. Life's balance remained fragile, dependent on conscious choices in the face of instinctual threats. The cubs squeaked once more, small eyes meeting Jason's, a silent acknowledgement of trust and protection. Jason had preserved life and guided humans to safety, yet the forest tests were ongoing. What other challenges would emerge? Could moral courage and empathy continue to safeguard life when instinct and danger collide in unpredictable ways? If you were Jason, how would you continue to balance moral responsibility, instinct, and the protection of life in such a precarious environment? Could you remain a steady guide under constant uncertainty? The forest was quiet again, though the tension lingered like the mist clinging to the leaves. Jason's chest heaved as he scanned the clearing, ensuring every life was unharmed. The mother bear had settled slightly, still alert but no longer coiled for attack. The cub's small squeaks had diminished into soft, cautious breaths as it pressed against its mother, finding comfort in her presence. Every creature seemed to exhale together, a delicate harmony restored, if only temporarily. Jason lowered himself to a crouch, hands on his knees, feeling the damp earth beneath him. He reflected on the series of choices that had brought them here. His first moral act, lowering the rifle in the very beginning, had set a chain of consequences in motion. Each subsequent decision, each deliberate intervention, had relied on calm authority, empathy, and the courage to respect life in a landscape dominated by instinct. He realized that moral courage was not about heroism alone. It was about quiet, deliberate action in moments when violence might seem easier, when fear might demand reflex. The humans he had guided along the creek trail, older man and teenage boy, now observed him with a mixture of awe, relief, and curiosity. Their fear had transformed into tentative respect. One of them whispered, almost to themselves, "I can't believe we made it out without anyone getting hurt. How?" Jason offered a small nod, voice soft but steady, "Because fear doesn't have to control action. Respect and calm can guide outcomes even in danger." The mother bear shifted slightly, nudging the cub gently. The small animal blinked up at Jason, eyes shimmering in the soft morning light. Jason felt a profound sense of connection, between human and animal, instinct and morality, vulnerability and trust. The forest was not just a backdrop, it was a living participant, shaping choices and consequences, teaching lessons that could only be learned through presence, observation, and courage. Yet Jason knew that this peace was fragile. The forest would continue to present tests, some subtle, some immediate. Predators, humans, and the unpredictable forces of nature could reintroduce tension at any moment. What mattered was not control over the forest, but understanding, empathy, and the willingness to make morally conscious decisions, even when instinct screamed otherwise. A soft breeze stirred the mist, brushing through branches and leaves, carrying with it the faint scent of dew, earth, and life itself. The wolves had retreated into the deeper underbrush, eyes still watchful, instincts alive and calculating. The mother bear and cub remained in the clearing, a living testament to the careful negotiation between danger and restraint, fear and trust. Jason observed them, noting the subtle ways the cub mirrored its mother's vigilance, the rhythm of their breathing and the quiet, unspoken communication that sustained them. He thought of the humans trembling along the creek trail, realizing that they had been active participants in this ecosystem of choices. Fear had initially threatened to dominate their behavior, yet Jason's calm authority had guided them to act deliberately, preserving life and respecting boundaries. Moral courage, he reflected, required not only individual choice but the capacity to influence and protect others without domination or coercion. Suddenly, the cub made a small movement, stepping cautiously forward, curiosity overcoming lingering fear. The mother bear watched closely, eyes scanning Jason for reassurance. Jason offered a gentle nod, understanding that every creature in this clearing was connected, every action influencing outcomes in ways both immediate and subtle. The cub inched forward, taking tentative steps into the mist, a quiet lesson in trust, courage, and growth. Jason exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the morning settle around him. The forest was no longer just a backdrop for survival. It had become a classroom, teaching him about the moral dimensions of choice, empathy, and courage. He realized that the lessons extended beyond this clearing, beyond the humans and animals he had guided today. Every life, every interaction demanded reflection, conscious awareness, and a willingness to act with moral clarity even under duress. The older man approached Jason, voice soft. "Thank you, you saved all of us. But more than that, you showed us something we couldn't have understood without this moment." Jason nodded, words unnecessary. The boy stepped closer, eyes wide with curiosity and wonder, and whispered, "I'll never forget this, what it felt like to trust even when I was terrified." The mother bear emitted a low, almost approving rumble, nudging the cub again. Jason observed quietly, understanding that this small, instinctual communication was part of a larger, living lesson. Moral courage, trust, empathy, and careful action resonated across species, influencing outcomes in ways both profound and subtle. Yet even as the forest seemed to exhale, Jason knew this was not the end. The mist shifted, leaves rustled, and distant snaps echoed faintly, reminders that the forest tests were ongoing. Moral courage was not a single act but a continuous practice. Each decision, each intervention, each choice to act with empathy and respect, rippled outward, shaping life in ways that might not be immediately visible but were deeply consequential. Jason had guided, protected, and taught through presence and moral courage. Yet the forest still held hidden lessons, awaiting the next test of empathy, courage, and moral clarity. Would he be ready to respond, or would the next challenge demand even greater awareness and sacrifice? The forest had settled into a tentative calm. Mist hovered in delicate tendrils around moss-covered trunks, sunlight filtering through the canopy in soft, golden beams. Jason remained crouched, observing the mother bear and her cub. The cub's small, tentative steps now carried more confidence, mirroring the careful lessons of trust and courage it had absorbed from the morning's chaos. The humans, older man and teenage boy, paused along the creek trail, catching their breath, faces pale but eyes bright with awe. They had been witnesses, participants, and ultimately beneficiaries of a profound moral negotiation that had played out in the clearing. Jason understood that the forest had taught them as much as it had taught him. The intertwining of instinct, moral courage, empathy, and the responsibility to act deliberately in the face of fear. The mother bear shifted, glancing toward Jason as if acknowledging his role in safeguarding her cub. Her growl had softened entirely, replaced by the subtle, protective rumble that resonated through her body. The cub squeaked softly and inched forward, stepping closer to Jason without fear, a testament to the bridge of trust that had formed between species. The lesson was clear. Courage tempered by restraint, empathy, and awareness could guide actions even under life-threatening pressure. Jason exhaled slowly, shoulders releasing the tension accumulated over the morning. He looked back toward the retreating wolves, partially visible in the underbrush, still alert but no longer aggressive. The forest's rhythm resumed, a delicate interplay of observation, instinct, and quiet life. The day's events were not merely a survival story, they were a moral narrative unfolding in real time, a testament to the power of choice under extreme circumstances. The older man spoke, voice hushed, almost reverential. "I've never felt anything like this, to be so afraid and yet so aware. It's like the forest itself demanded something of us." Jason nodded. "It did. And it still will. Every day, every encounter, there's a choice. Fear or empathy, violence or guidance. We don't control the forest, but we can honor life through our decisions." The teenage boy, eyes wide, added softly, "I never thought I could be part of something so alive, so moral. It's like every move mattered." Jason's gaze softened. "It did. Every life, every instinct, every choice mattered. That's the weight, and the gift, of presence." The cub squeaked again, small paws pressing lightly on the mossy floor. Jason reached out slightly, a cautious gesture of reassurance. The mother bear remained alert but unmoving, a silent partner in this moral dialogue. Jason understood that this moment, this delicate interaction between humans and animals, was both culmination and continuation. The forest had tested them all, not through violence, but through the demand for awareness, empathy, and courage. As sunlight continued to pierce through the mist, Jason observed the humans begin to move along the creek trail, returning to the main path, but their expressions remained changed. They carried with them a new understanding, the weight of moral choice, the impact of calm intervention, and the responsibility inherent in every interaction with life. The mother bear nudged her cub, guiding it back into the deeper forest, a silent farewell, yet a connection established through trust. Jason remained for a moment longer, reflecting on the day's events. Every action had consequences, every moral choice had ripple effects. He realized that courage was not merely the absence of fear, but the conscious decision to act rightly despite it. He realized that empathy extended beyond species, extending across the delicate web of life, influencing outcomes in profound, unseen ways. Yet even as relief and resolution settled in, Jason felt the persistent awareness that the forest's lessons were ongoing. Rustling in the underbrush, distant calls of birds, the faint snapping of branches in the unseen depths, all were reminders that vigilance, empathy, and moral courage were never static. The forest demanded conscious engagement, an ongoing negotiation between instinct, morality, and respect for life. The humans paused once more, turning back briefly. The older man's expression carried gratitude and reverence. The boy's eyes reflected awe and curiosity. Jason gave them a small nod, understanding that their journey had changed, subtly but irrevocably, shaped by the moral clarity and calm courage they had witnessed. The mother bear and cub disappeared deeper into the forest, mist curling around them like a protective veil. Jason exhaled one final time, shoulders loosening, heart still racing but grounded in understanding. The forest was alive, full of moral challenges and life lessons. Yet today it had permitted harmony through conscious courage, empathy, and restraint. As Jason prepared to leave the clearing, a faint rustle in the far underbrush caught his attention. The forest's lessons were far from over. Somewhere, beyond sight, another test awaited, a reminder that life's balance, moral courage, and empathy were continuous, not finite. How would you carry the lessons of empathy, moral courage, and awareness into your own life? Could you act deliberately and ethically when instinct, fear, and uncertainty collide? When the hunter lowered his rifle, explores moral courage, empathy, and conscious choice in the face of instinctual danger. Through interactions between humans, a mother bear, her cub, and wolves, the story demonstrates that restraint, awareness, and ethical action can preserve life and foster trust, even under extreme tension. Moral courage is not the absence of fear, it is deliberate action guided by empathy, respect, and understanding.